My friends, we stand at the threshold of a new season, a new year, and a new opportunity to walk in the fullness of who we were meant to be. We live in a world where people come and go, where relationships rise and fall like the tides. But hear me now, if someone wants you in their life, they will make a place for you. If they don't, it is not your job to beg, to plead, or to chase after them. You owe it to yourself in 2025 to stand firm in your worth, to walk boldly in your purpose, and to leave behind anything or anyone that no longer aligns with the calling on your life. This year, make a promise to yourself: no more chasing, no more pleading. No more staying where you are only tolerated instead of celebrated. You owe it to yourself in 2025 to stand in the fullness of who you are, to embrace the relationships that nurture your soul, and to walk away from anything that no longer serves your growth. The right people will make room for you. The wrong ones will make excuses. And when you truly know your worth, you will never settle for anything less than what was meant for you. Walk boldly, love fearlessly, and never forget you owe it to you. If someone truly desires your presence in their life, they will show it, not just with words, but with consistent action. This is one of the greatest truths you can embrace. In a world filled with distractions, with people coming and going, with relationships being tested by time, distance, and circumstances, there is one thing that remains clear: people make time for what they value. You never have to wonder where you stand with someone who genuinely wants you in their life. Their actions will remove all doubt. Consider this: when something is important to you, when it truly matters, you find a way to prioritize it. You rearrange your schedule, you make the call, you send the message, you show up. It is not a burden, it is a choice. And so it is with relationships. When someone values you, they will put in the effort, not because they have to, but because they want to. They will not leave you guessing. They will not leave you wondering, and they will not make you question your importance in their life. But too often we make excuses for people who continuously show us that they do not hold us as a priority. We justify their absence. We overlook their indifference. We minimize our own needs just to maintain a place in their lives. We tell ourselves they are just busy, but that they are dealing with things that maybe we are expecting too much. And while it is true that life can be overwhelming and responsibilities can demand attention, there is a difference between someone who is genuinely unable to be present in a moment and someone who consistently chooses to neglect the relationship. The reality is we all have the same 24 hours in a day. We all have obligations, commitments, and responsibilities. Yet even in the busiest of times, people make time for what truly matters. Think about the last time you were passionate about something, a goal, a dream, an opportunity. No matter how packed your schedule was, you found a way to incorporate it into your life. Why? Because it was important to you. That same principle applies to relationships. When someone values you, they will carve out the time, they will make the call, they will check in, not because they are obligated to, but because you matter to them. But what happens when you are the only one putting in the effort? What happens when you're always the one reaching out, always the one adjusting, always the one compromising? That is when you must take a step back and recognize the truth. Effort is never one-sided when something is real. If you are the only one fighting to keep a connection alive, then it is not a connection. It is a dependency, and it is draining the very life out of you. You should never have to beg for attention, for time, for effort. Love, whether in friendships, family, or romantic relationships, should never be something you have to chase. This is why it is so crucial to pay attention to actions over words. People can say all the right things, but it is their behavior that tells you everything you need to know. Promises mean nothing without follow-through. A declaration of love means little if it is not backed by commitment. A friend who says they care but never checks in is showing you exactly where you stand. If someone continuously makes you feel like an option instead of a priority, then it is time to believe them. Too often, we allow history to keep us tied to people who no longer put in the effort. We hold on to memories, to the way things used to be, hoping that things will go back to how they once were. But the past cannot sustain a relationship in the present. What matters is now. What matters is how someone treats you today, not the nostalgia of how they treated you yesterday. When people show you through their inaction that they are no longer invested in maintaining a connection, it is not your job to carry the weight alone. It is not your responsibility to compensate for their lack of effort. Recognizing this truth is not about being bitter, nor is it about holding resentment. It is about acknowledging your worth and refusing to settle for one-sided relationships. It is about understanding that you deserve reciprocity, that you deserve to be surrounded by people who appreciate you, who see you, who make room for you in their lives. You deserve relationships that do not leave you questioning your value. So in 2025, make a commitment to yourself. Pay attention to who shows up. Pay attention to who makes the effort. Pay attention to who values you not just in words, but in action. You deserve consistency. You deserve clarity. And most of all, you deserve people who make time for you, not just when it is convenient, but because you matter. You were created with purpose, dignity, and worth. That is not something you have to earn, prove, or convince anyone of. It is something that is already within you. The world may try to make you believe otherwise, but your value is not up for negotiation. Too many people go through life seeking validation from others, looking for approval, chasing after love and acceptance, when the truth is, the right people will see your worth without you having to prove it. If someone cannot recognize the value you bring, that is their limitation, not yours. From a young age, society teaches us to seek approval. We learn that if we perform well, if we please others, if we meet expectations, we will be accepted. And while discipline, hard work, and kindness are valuable qualities, they should never come at the expense of our own self-worth. We were never meant to live a life where we constantly feel the need to prove ourselves to be worthy of love, respect, or belonging. If someone makes you feel like you have to earn their presence, that is not a relationship. It is a transaction, and you were never meant to be a commodity in someone else's life. It is an exhausting cycle, seeking validation, adjusting yourself to fit into someone else's version of who you should be, shrinking yourself to accommodate people who refuse to grow. And what happens when you finally get their approval? You realize it was never enough. Because when you have to beg for someone to see your worth, they will always expect you to prove it again and again. It becomes a constant chase, a never-ending race where the finish line keeps moving. That is why you must decide, once and for all, that your self-worth is not something that can be bartered or debated. It is not something that fluctuates based on someone else's ability to see it. When you truly understand your worth, you stop over-explaining yourself. You stop trying to prove your kindness, your loyalty, your love. You stop bending over backward for people who would not take a single step toward you. You realize that being overlooked by the wrong people does not diminish your value. It simply means they were never meant to recognize it in the first place. The right people will see your light. They will appreciate your presence. They will meet you where you are without you having to beg for it. It is a painful truth, but one that must be accepted. Not everyone will appreciate you. Not everyone will value what you bring to the table. And that is okay, because the ones who do will never make you question it. You will not have to fight for a seat at their table because they will gladly make room for you. But as long as you keep chasing people who do not see your worth, you will continue to settle for less than what you deserve. You will keep giving your energy to people who take it for granted. And the more you do that, the more you teach yourself that your worth is something that can be negotiated. Walking in your worth means understanding that rejection is not a reflection of your value. It means realizing that when someone does not choose you, it does not mean you were not enough. It simply means they were not the right fit for you. And that is a powerful realization. Because the moment you stop trying to convince people to see your worth, you create space for those who already do. You stop wasting time on relationships that drain you. and start investing in those that build you up. People who truly value you will not make you feel like you are too much or not enough. They will not keep you at arm's length, only reaching out when it is convenient. They will not make you question your place in their lives. Instead, they will show up. They will respect you. They will appreciate you without you having to convince them why they should. So in 2025, remind yourself daily, your worth is not a bargaining chip. You do not have to prove it to anyone. The right people will recognize it, and the wrong ones will make you question it. But no matter what, never settle for anything less than what you know you deserve. You were not created to be tolerated. You were created to be valued. And the moment you start believing that, everything changes. Silence often speaks louder than words. When someone values you, their actions will show it. And when they do not, their absence will make it clear. Far too often, people ignore the most obvious signs, holding on to words and empty promises while overlooking the undeniable truth that silence and distance reveal. It is difficult to accept, but the reality is that when someone repeatedly fails to show up, when they consistently make excuses instead of efforts, when they leave your messages unread, cancel plans without rescheduling, or simply disappear without explanation, it is a choice. And that choice says more than any excuse ever could. We live in a world where communication has never been easier. A message takes seconds to send. A call requires only a moment of effort. In the midst of busy schedules, people still make time for what matters to them. No one is too busy to check in, to reply, to acknowledge your existence. The truth is, if someone truly values you, they will not leave you wondering where you stand. But when someone continuously makes you feel like an afterthought, when they consistently leave you in the dark, that silence is telling you everything you need to know. The problem is, many people choose to believe the excuses instead of the reality. They tell themselves that the person is just overwhelmed, that they must have missed the message, that surely there is a good reason for the distance. They convince themselves that if they just reach out one more time, if they just try a little harder, maybe things will go back to how they once were. But the truth is, people who care do not need to be chased. They do not leave you feeling uncertain. They do not let silence speak for them when they could easily offer clarity. This is not about expecting constant attention or demanding immediate responses. Everyone has their own responsibilities and their own challenges. But there is a vast difference between someone who is temporarily occupied and someone who is repeatedly unavailable. One is understandable. The other is a pattern, and patterns tell you everything you need to know about where you stand in someone's life. It is painful to accept that someone you care about may not feel the same way. It is hard to acknowledge that the energy you have given so freely is not being returned. But it is even more painful to keep pouring yourself into someone who has already left. Holding on to someone who has let go does not keep the relationship alive. It only keeps you stuck in a place where you are no longer meant to be. And the longer you ignore the silence, the longer you prolong your own peace. The most dangerous thing about unreciprocated effort is that it slowly wears down your sense of self-worth. Every time you excuse someone's absence, every time you justify their indifference, every time you reach out and are met with silence, you teach yourself to settle. You send yourself the message that your time, your love, and your presence are not valuable enough to be acknowledged. But that is a lie. Your worth does not decrease just because someone else fails to see it. The right people will never leave you questioning where you stand. They will never make you feel like an inconvenience or an option. They will not let silence take the place of communication, because when you truly care, you make the effort. You deserve relationships that are built on mutual respect, not confusion. You deserve clarity, not mixed signals. You deserve consistency, not sporadic attention when it is convenient for someone else. And the moment you start believing that, you will stop chasing people who make you feel otherwise. The absence of effort is effort in itself. The silence is an answer. And once you recognize that, you will no longer waste time on those who have already shown you that you are not a priority to them. Instead, you will make space for those who appreciate you, who respect you, and who never leave you questioning where you stand. It is not about convincing someone to prioritize you when they repeatedly show you that they will not. Real love does not require you to beg for a place in someone's life. Real love does not leave you feeling empty, wondering why your best is never enough. What if the door that closed was keeping you from something that would have hurt you more in the long run? What if the person who walked away was actually making space for someone who would love you in the way you deserve? It is draining to shape yourself into what others want, hoping they will finally accept you. And it is heartbreaking to shrink yourself just to fit into someone else's version of who you should be. But the moment you realize that you do not have to live that way, everything changes.